Hi everyone. So yeah, as you can see, I'm in a new room and my books are so messy. Basically, I'm in the same house, but I just actually moved upstairs to a bigger bedroom. I just kind of like threw my bookshelves up here. I've got piles of books here. So bookshelf organization is coming. I'm definitely going to buy another bookshelf as well as a TV stand. So I think I'll make that into a video when the time comes. Currently, this wall is just a bit too blank and then this is just so messy. So yeah, for this video, I just wanted to wrap up my May and June reads. So yeah, again, I usually put like 2 months together because usually I'm not the quickest reader in the whole world. To film a wrap up, I feel like I need to read at least 3 or 4. So usually that's about 2 months worth of reading for me. But anyway, that being said, I did read quite a bit. I'll start off actually with the Chemical Garden series. So the first book is called Wither, the second is Fever, and then the third is Sever. I read Wither actually back last October, but Fever and Sever, which are books 2 and 3, I read them in May and June respectively. So yeah, this is by the author Lauren DeStefano, and these came out kind of around that time when dystopias were just the biggest thing ever. I think these came out in 2011. But yeah, actually, I'll link my wrap up where I talk about this. I read this during Vampathon last October, and I actually wasn't that crazy about it. I thought it was okay. Enough that I was like, okay, I do want to figure out the story, I do want to continue it, and I'm really glad I did now. But it was about a 2-star read for me. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't like fantastic either. Basically, this universe, you have post-apocalyptic America. The whole world has basically been destroyed through wars and stuff. There's been genetic engineering, so you have the first generation of genetically engineered children. They've eradicated all illnesses, but the generations after that found out that lifespans are very, very short. So for females it's around 20, for males it's about 25. So yeah, in this you have Ryan, she's the main character. In this world too, the rich upper class men can take many wives, so she becomes one of 3 for this governor, or for this governor's son, I think. There's definitely things in this that won't fly today. So basically you do have women are sent off to be married as young as like 13 or 14 and to have kids, because there's an attitude of pro-naturalism and pro-science. So you have people trying to maintain humanity and have as many babies as possible before they die at 20, or you have another kind of viewpoint of just letting humanity go, like it's at the end. So yeah, that's a synopsis of the story. So you've got Ryan, she's in this mansion along with her sister wives. She's married to a man called Lincoln. His evil his evil father is the house governor of the mansion. This is a bit of a spoiler, but Ryan tries to escape. So yeah, that's a synopsis of the story. There's kind of like a lot of teenage angst. There's a love triangle. So yeah, generally it was quite enjoyable. Not the most well written or best executed books ever. I found with Fever, actually, this was so much more action packed than Wither. Like, this is like plotline, 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 plotline. Some of the writing can be a little bit cringy. Like, there in Fever, actually, there's a character that gives Ryan a nickname, and it's just a little bit like, ugh. Definitely Ryan is the not like other girls girl. I haven't made up my mind, is she a great character or not. She seems a little bit bland, and it's sometimes hard to distinguish how she's feeling. She seems to just kind of like go along with what's happening to her. I have to say, the end of this book, hopefully this isn't a spoiler, but Ryan gets very, very sick. There's actually quite a horrific scene in this involving experiments, like health experiments, and it was so graphic, and actually the depiction of her illness was so well done. I was actually quite shocked because I wasn't like enjoying the writing style that much up until the end of this one. The description of the illness was just very, very, very well done. That being said, yeah, just like the main character makes some questionable choices, or it's a little bit cheesy. It's very, very, very far-fetched. The dystopia doesn't feel real. Like, a good dystopia would be like a Black Mirror episode where you can see the world could possibly turn this way. This is so far-fetched, it's more of like a sci-fi book rather than a dystopia, I would think. So that's the thing. It's not the best written thing in the world, but then I moved on to Sever, which I actually really enjoyed. So for me, it was quite strange. Usually with trilogies, maybe YA trilogies, you think the first one's the best one and kind of gradually gets worse. For me, it was the total opposite. Total opposite. I really enjoyed Sever. I give 3 stars. The other two got 2. That being said, Sever was a little bit slower, definitely slower paced. It got to a point where it did amp up. There's lovely reunion scenes. It's a lot more emotional, and I have to say the emotion and grief, yeah, the feelings were conveyed a little bit better in this one than any of the others. I can't really give away the plot because it's books 2 and 3, so I don't want to spoil it on anyone who hasn't read them. Yeah, basically you have a bit of a love triangle. You have Ryan with her husband and then another guy, I won't say who. In the first book I didn't believe it at all. I was like, I don't get it. I don't get the husband. I don't understand why she even has a little bit of feeling towards him. By the 3rd book, you get it, you know. Again, some things in here are very far-fetched. My main issue with the series is the kind of convolution with who's evil and who's not. Like, you have the main villain who's Vaughn, who is Lincoln's father. And it's not really, like, he's kind of told that he's evil. In this one, I'm like, please show me he's evil, because I don't see it. This does come across in Fever and a little bit in Sever. I think it gets a bit more convoluted here. And I know the author was trying to show morally grey, but it just wasn't executed very well, because for me as a reader, I was reading it and I was like, okay, what Vaughn was doing is very, very similar to what Ryan's parents were doing. I don't get why he's so evil. And it's not until like the final book that you get here and you see the whole picture that you're kind of like, ah, yes, I get it. But I should have had that sense of he's morally grey or evil from the start, and it just wasn't executed well. That is my only gripe with this. That being said, quite heartfelt, very interesting and unique story. If you do like YA dystopias, I would give this a go. It's definitely not the best one out there, but I'm still glad I read them. So I was kind of chopping and changing between books, but I think I had to describe the whole trilogy as a whole rather than the individual books. But definitely for me, it got better as the series went on. So yeah, I've got another dystopia to talk about. I don't actually have this because I read this on my Readsy account. So this is For Home and Hearth by Ethan Warner. I definitely need to buy a copy. It's on Amazon now, so I can add it to my really messy collection here. So yeah, another well done dystopia, and definitely involves very similar themes to The Chemical Garden, because this is genetic engineering as well. So yeah, this was interesting. So I read this on my Readsy account, so I read it for free for me to review it for the author. I did really enjoy this, and it's definitely a setup for a sequel, so I'm definitely going to get his sequel whenever it comes out. But yeah, if you want to read my written review, I'll have it linked down in the description. Also, Readsy, if you're interested to be a reviewer yourself, I have a link in the description as well. It's really fun. You sign up and you can read free books in return for a review. Yeah, this was excellent and it really stuck with me. I gave it 3 out of 5. That's not a bad review for me. It's just I read it knowing it, like reading it, I was like, this is not my cup of tea, but another person would really, really like this. But I could definitely appreciate the good things about the book. Kind of similar to The Chemical Garden setting wise. So you've got a few generations after the fall of society, post-apocalyptic America. It's really interesting because you read it and you think you're reading something from the past, but it's actually set years in the future. It's nearly like maybe Civil War times America kind of society. I thought that like the world building of this was really, really good. Like within like a few chapters, I was like, okay, I understand the currency. I understand like the culture of the clan, the dangers they're facing and their weapons and everything like that. I understood that from the get-go. The world building was really, really good. So yeah, it's a very well-paced book as well. So you've got kind of like normal everyday life in the clan, which can be a bit slower, so just bear that in mind. It was a slower, getting a little bit more quick towards the end, with definitely some like war and battle scenes if you're interested in that. But yeah, some things were so well done in this. There's a depiction of hunger, so the clan do starve at one point in the book, and that was so well done. Like the clan mentality, and then kind of like a yearning for something more, or what used to be. I really enjoyed that about the book. So I would say the main theme of it was like the consequences of development, because in this book a new invention or new weapon is created, or a reinvention I suppose. Yeah, there's kind of like the consequences of that, like what will that cause society in the future, this tiny clan, what's going to happen. So yeah, there was a cool kind of like sci-fi element to it, like which was really, really subtle. It's not crazy sci-fi, it's definitely more a dystopia. Yeah, I haven't read a book about clan mentality and like control in that way, so that was quite interesting to read about. So yeah, I really liked the twist. I loved the religious elements. I loved the consequences of scientific development. So yeah, overall, really enjoyed this. You have a couple of main characters within this, and it's their story of survival really, and how they interact with the rest of the clan. An outsider joins the clan. You can just see how he never really fits in, or that he's never let in. If you want a book about clan mentality, this is a good book to read. A few points to bear in mind though, like it was a little bit slower paced, so if you don't mind slower paced books, it'd probably be for you. Also, you should bear in mind as well, I think the term is Appalachian English, so the characters talk with that dialect, so if it's a little bit hard to understand if you're not aware of it. But it wasn't impossible to understand or anything like that. Just bear that in mind going into reading this. Two quite big flaws with this. Some of the characters were named, and it took me a while to gauge who each person was, especially if they weren't given a job. Like one was the reverend, one was the teacher, but even then I was like, who's that? Like it took me a little while to gauge which character was which, because there's a lot of characters in this book. Similar with any kind of fantasy book where it's kind of hard to keep a name, kind of follow along with characters, it just felt a little bit like that. Another kind of glaring one, and I don't think this is intentionally bad or anything like that, but the depiction of women in this book is not good. So women aren't watchmen, they aren't elders, they make no decisions in the clan, it's all men. You do have women fighting at the end, but even then there's references to how pretty one of the characters is, even if she's fighting. I was a little bit disappointed reading that, but I don't think that was the author's intention. I do think the author wanted to convey that like the clan went back to pre-feminist times. That's what I think. Reading this, that's what I imagine, because the main character in this book is a woman. She is a very soft character, but strong in other ways, and quite realistic too. So it was just like, I know the author was making a point, but it still made it a little bit uncomfortable to read. So just bear that in mind going in. So yeah, I think if you like dystopias, if you like fantasies, let's say like The Walking Dead or something, I think you would really, really like this. Yeah, if you like genetic engineering, an element of control and what that does to a society, excellent book to pick up and read. So yeah, the next one was The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. I'm slowly making my way through the Goodreads winners for 2021, and this won the thriller selection. And I think this is big because it's a Reese Witherspoon book club book, and usually anytime she recommends a book, it does sell well. This though, it wasn't it. Wasn't it for me. I would give it like 2 stars maybe. It's not a thriller. Just bear that in mind. More like a domestic fiction with an element of a thriller aspect of it. Basically you have Hannah as the main character. She's married to Owen. They get married a little bit later in life, and he already has a daughter called Bailey. She doesn't really care for Hannah that much. Owen goes missing without a trace. He leaves a note for Hannah. But yeah, basically the book is Hannah and Bailey trying to figure out what happened to Owen. Why did he disappear? For me, I think it was just the story itself. Like when I describe it, it is very, very interesting, but it just wasn't executed well. I don't think. There was actually points in this where the grammar didn't make sense to me. Like I was reading some sentences over and over again and I was like, does that make sense? I don't know. That being said, I did enjoy reading it. I read it quite quickly. I haven't read a lot of thrillers, but I've read enough that I know about a trope that kind of annoys me a little bit, is when a character feels like detectives can't do enough and they're better at it and they'll go do it themselves. So that's basically what happens in this. Hannah decides she'll go and try to solve the mystery herself, which turns out to be really dangerous. Like so dangerous. Like the situation she puts herself and her stepdaughter are quite dangerous. And I was like, would translate well to a TV show or movie to make it interesting, but again, very far-fetched. And then for me as well, like the character Hannah, she was just like a blank piece of wood, which is really ironic because she's a wood turner. I wasn't sure what her character was. I wasn't sure how her character was feeling. Like she seemed like very deadpan when she should be feeling some emotion. I feel like Bailey's character was written well. She did feel like a teenage girl with her actions and emotions. She was written well, but I just don't know about Hannah. She's very, very blank. Yeah, it's definitely more of a domestic mystery rather than like thriller. Like it's not scary in any way. There was definitely some good points. I really did enjoy the actual story. I did enjoy it. I enjoyed everything unraveling. I really enjoyed the ending. It was really heartfelt. But yeah, I just don't know. People were giving out about The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. I enjoyed that far more than this one. That's saying something. So yeah, the story. I feel like the story itself, excellent. If you do enjoy kind of a light thriller, you will like it. But yeah, it just does have some tropes that are a bit annoying. It's hard to talk about thrillers because I don't want to give anything away, because you want to know as little as possible going into a thriller. I think how Owen goes missing as well is very far-fetched, but his story is very good, where Hannah's isn't. There was references to her past. I just didn't really care. So for me, it's a pity that I nearly wish Owen was the main character, not Hannah, because I feel like his point of view would have been so much more interesting. Just the main character in this didn't care for at all. Just so blank. I was like, have some emotion, please. It's not that she didn't react in the way I was expecting half the time. Got herself and her stepdaughter and some stupid stuff. But yeah, not the best thriller. But yeah, the mystery element of it was very, very good. I really enjoyed like trying to click together what was going on. I couldn't guess it, and the twist is quite good once it happens. So I was kind of like, oh, is that it? Okay, so that was fun. I don't really know much more to say about this. It was all right. It wasn't awful. I would definitely watch an adaptation of this if it's ever made. I don't think it was worthy of winning the thriller. I didn't read a lot of thrillers last year, so I don't know the other books that could have won in that category for the Goodreads Awards. But yeah, it's okay. I'll end on a high. Just finished actually Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I loved this book. Really loved it. I was so excited to pick it up and keep reading it. It's really quick to get through as well. I think it's 360 pages, and you will read it in a day if you tried. So yeah, with Taylor Jenkins Reid's books, some of her books, her most recent ones, are all within the same universe. So for me, I read Daisy Jones and the Six, which I really, really enjoyed. So basically with Malibu Rising, you have this family of siblings and they're quite famous surfers. So you have Nina Riva, she's like a model and a surfer. You have Jay and Hod, so Jay is a famous surfer, Hod's a famous photographer, and then you have Kit as well, their younger sister. They're the children of Mick Riva. This is a fictional universe of our own universe. I'd say he's like the equivalent of Mick Jagger or maybe Elvis Presley. Like so famous. Like he's the most famous man in the world. So yeah, they're the children of him. Mick Riva is mentioned, Daisy Jones and the Six. He's like at a party, I think. And I believe he's one of the husbands of the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I haven't read that book, but I definitely want to get to it. Also, there's a cameo of Carrie Soto, and her character in this, it's only a cameo, but she seems so interesting. And that book is coming out soon. I don't know when, but I think it's soon. And I'm definitely going to pick it up as soon as I can. So yeah, this book, a little bit different to, I believe Evelyn Hugo is like Evelyn Hugo talking to a reporter who's writing up her biography. And then Daisy Jones and the Six is interview style, where this is just a fiction book because just like it's telling you what's happening. So it's set over a 24-hour period. The Rivas have really famous end of summer party. So you've got, it goes from 7 a.m. to the following 7 a.m. over a 24-hour period. And then you have chapters of flashbacks, so the siblings when they're smaller, when they're children. You have Mick Riva when he's married to the kid's mother, and like how they got together, all these things. So it does have flashbacks. The day leading up to the party, and the party is the setting. It's so well done. So well done. I was close to giving it 5 stars, but I'm going to settle on like 4.5. It definitely wasn't perfect. In a way, I can tell what Taylor Jenkins Reid is doing. She's kind of like, this will sell. Yeah, I can kind of see through it a little bit. So I think that's why. So, excellent book. Excellent book. I'm really excited to get to the other Jenkins Reid's books that I haven't got to yet. And for Carrie Soto, definitely. So yeah, the characters in here are all really believable. And that's what Taylor Jenkins Reid does really well, is her characters are usually famous. And she does them very well. Like, they do feel like real celebrities, even though they're fictional. So I really enjoyed all the characters in this. Mick Riva seems like a real superstar. There's a lot of surfing talk in this, so if you enjoy surfing, you'll love this. The party itself was very well done. You could really picture easily what was going on. Yeah, but 1 or 2 maybe cheesy things. There was a character introduced in this called Casey, and I didn't think her storyline needed to be there at all. I don't think it added much to the story. I kind of knew it was there in terms of understanding Mick Riva, and I think that was the only reason that was there. But yeah, I don't think it added to the story that much. I don't really know why it was there. So actually, I have to say, like, this book, I think I enjoyed the setup and the middle more than the ending. Like, the ending kind of just like wraps things up. There's no like crazy twist or anything. Like, everything kind of happens like as you expect it to happen, even though it's still really fun and interesting. It kind of gives away the ending at the very start. So yeah, by midnight the party will be completely out of control. By morning the Riva mansion will have gone up in flames. So it tells you at the start, at the very first page as well, that there's going to be a fire. So you're just kind of like finding out how it's going to start, basically. Yeah, so I found that quite strange. I was like, I really enjoyed actually the process of the start and the middle rather than the ending. Definitely very emotional too. Yeah, it's very gripping and emotional, and you do feel for the characters. Really interesting story. Loved reading it. Taylor Jenkins Reid is doing what she does best, and that's celebrity characters. I would just recommend anyone to read this. It's so good. So yeah, definitely dying to get to Evelyn Hugo because everyone says that's the best one. Can't wait for Carrie Soto. So yeah, so happy I got to read this. This is funny. So this won the historical fiction for the Goodreads 2021 runners, and it's set in the early 80s. So it's a bit weird to think that that's historical fiction. So I was born in the 90s. But yeah, I suppose it does flash back to the 50s as well. But still, it's a bit weird that this is historical. So yeah, they are all the books I read over the past 2 months. Interesting, very up and down. My life is calming down in July and August, so hopefully I'll get to read a little bit more. So yeah, I'll leave all my socials and my Readsy link and everything in the description. So if you'd like to subscribe, I do anything book related on this channel. So reading vlogs, reading wrap-ups, hauls, anything book related. Yeah, bookshelf organization is coming. Big time needed. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.